Hello and welcome to my first 24 hours tutorial. I'm going to teach you how to survive the night as well as what resources you should be focusing on. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to collect plant fiber, wood from these bushes. Any bushes will do. They now break in one hit. They used to not. And then you're going to want to collect 2 stones off the ground. Get yourself a stone axe with that. That's really the very first thing you need to do. Keep collecting plant fiber as you go. Plant fiber is so important early game. And that's because you need it for your stone axes, and you're going to be making tons of stone axes. You also need it for your bow, and you also need it for your clothing, because plant fiber clothing is the first thing you're going to build. You're going to want to kind of just ignore the mission. You'll do it, but just ignore it because it'll just happen as you go. Now, of course, you're going to collect every nest you can find because feathers equal more arrows equals higher weapon skill. Because arrows have no quality, you can just build them and still use them. Now, right there, I just cut that out, but what I had done is I had actually completely cleared that patch because one thing is I want to get as much cotton as possible. I also want to get as much plant fibers. And I just feel like that's a good way to know when you should start and stop is if you just go ahead and just collect an entire patch of grass and cotton that grows over top of the clay. And of course, then you've got a completely clear spot of clay. So if you're running along and you need clay later, you know exactly where it's at because it's completely barren land. This entire time, as you see, I'm trying to build more axes. Of course, it was hard to do because I didn't have any stone yet, but now I've collected enough stone. I'm going to be building axes in earnest now, and also try to keep it as organized as possible so you know how much of the essential resources you have at a time. And I always put them in the top left corner, but you can put them somewhere else if it's convenient for you. As you see, I'm just building stone axes, collecting resources, building stone axes, collecting resources. I'll collect resources faster, the better my stone axes get. That's why it's so important to just constantly be crafting, especially stone axes here in the early game. Now I'm going to go clear out another clay section. We're not going to watch me do it. Now you see, I've already got my stone axes up to 100. At that point, I think I'm doing about 20 damage a hit, whereas you start at 15 damage a hit, which gets you through stuff so much faster. It's just, you have no idea how many hits that takes away. It just really saves you a lot of time. Let's see. Okay, yeah, it was about 19, I think, or 18 there. But yeah, you get the idea. It's of course, like you said, like I showed you, just stop whenever you see a nest. Loot it. I don't care if you're running from zombies. If you gotta loot those nests. I know it's scary sometimes, but the more feathers you get, the better off you are. Now, of course, like I said, pick up all the cotton you can get. And so your main resources that you're going to want to make sure you're collecting: plant fibers, wood, cotton, stone. You're going to want to have at least 1,500 to 2,000 wood. The 1,500 is like the bare minimum. You won't finish your base, but all the important areas will be finished. 2,000 should probably finish your base. And of course, that's after you've already built 100. You're going to need about 125 wood frames for your base. So everything needs to be taken to mind here. 125 is about 500, 600. I think it's 600. Should be 600 wood. So you're going to need about 2,600 wood. Now you're going to need lots of stone for making arrows as well as for making stone axes. You're going to need as many feathers as you can because, like I said, you want to make it as many feathers as possible because since feathers have no skill, no quality. The more you make, they're not going to be bad arrows. They're going to be just regular quality arrows. And the more you make before you make your bow, the better your first bow is and the more damage you're doing with that first bow. Now, of course, you can make a bow. Bow's cheap. I just don't even bother because they're so junk at the beginning. Now, right here, you're going to see where I focus too much on... Now, I heard the sound, so I'm looking. I'm like, where's that zombie? I heard it. But I'm going to focus too much on chopping this tree down and on the zombie. See, right here is where I make my mistake. I'm like, oh, I just had one more hit, but it got me hit. And then that got me hit twice because I was stunned as a result. You're going to get stunned most of the time when you get hit. You don't want to get hit once. But this is how you fight. You just run forward, run back, run forward, run back. Once you knock them down, you just hit them in the head because that's going to do as much damage as possible. I like to build my base on roads because they're pretty flat, and also the asphalt gives you a lot of defense if the zombies would try to like dig underneath you, and your base is just because your base can't collapse if it gets dug out enough. Generally that doesn't happen, but it has happened to me once or twice, so I just like to do it somewhere where I'm defended. You're going to build this 5x5, and it's going to be 5 high. You're going to put a door on it, of course. Upgrade the door as much as you can. Now you're going to put these on here so spider zombies don't climb it. A lot of times spider zombies can spawn on your first night. I've had it happen, but because I build this on my first night, they can't get up to me. I've died before because I didn't. Now, here's where I get really lucky because I wasn't watching my back. Look at that. I heard him like last second, but it was still lucky that I didn't get hit. Now right there, I didn't run far enough back. You want to give them even more distance than you think they need because they do lunges. And lunges make them go really fast, and they get like a couple extra steps. Like I said, when they're down, just pound on that skull of theirs until they go. Make sure you collect bones if you can from fallen zombies, because you can craft those into a bone shiv, which you can then use to skin animals. Now, never put the bottom rung of the ladder because the zombies can climb ladders if the bottom rung's there. If the bottom rung's not, you just jump and you'll be able to climb the ladder and the zombies can't, which is a great feature because they can easily get through that door. But what they can't easily do is get to you on the roof here, which is where you want to build everything. Now this is on the 4th level. I'm going to add a 5th level as soon as I complete these corners. So right here is my 5th level. I didn't have enough wood for everything, so what I did is I went ahead and I just built the floor on one section so that I could place a chest down. I cleared out all the stuff that I don't need for my general labor, and now what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start making the shirts. Plant fiber shirts cost 10 plant fiber, and I'm going to be making 30 at once. That's why I said you want to have at least around 600 or more plant fibers when you go in, because you're going to want to be able to make as many stone axes as you want. You're going to want to also be able to make as many of these shirts as you want. And because I collected all that cotton, and because I collected all that stuff, I now have over 250 quality in my shirts just in the first night here. That puts them from a 9, which is the lowest quality, to a 12. But I do like to get them to 350 before I build an entire suit, because then I'm also going to build my cloth. And the cloth will be around 22, I think, armor protection, which 22 armor protection is really, you end up with having an average of about 25, which is just, it basically decreases zombie damage by about 25%, which is really good for early game, because you don't really run into a lot of zombies early game. Now, I usually, if there's no zombies around, I'll usually go down a little bit early just because I get impatient. But yeah, doing the same thing I've been doing for the first day. You're going to do this for about the first 2 days, but once you've done it the first night, you really get a grasp of what you're doing. But yeah, you're just collecting and crafting, collecting, crafting, collecting, crafting. And there you go. I hope you enjoyed. It's been a pleasure teaching you. See, I've got it up to 300 quality just in the first 24 hours here. I've got 253 quality on my stone axe. It's all really good. Later.